Hi, I'm Snez, personal trainer, healthy lifestyle coach, and your guide to feeling your best. This podcast is a segment from my weekly radio show, Wellbeing Wednesdays, broadcast live on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. It's all about sharing real, practical tips to help you move more, eat better, and live healthier without the overwhelm. Let's dive in, shall we? Coming up next, we're going to be talking about something that's been everywhere lately, and you've probably heard about it. You have probably seen it on social media. You've probably read about it, heard about it in the news, even spoken to your doctor about it, and that's Ozempic. It's originally designed, it's a drug that's originally designed for managing type 2 diabetes, but now it's sort of filtered into the world of weight loss because of how it affects appetite and blood sugar regulation. Now, the interesting thing is that what Ozempic does is basically works in a specific way by mimicking a hormone called GLP-1. Now, GLP-1 helps to regulate our insulin levels, our blood sugar levels, and our appetite. And basically, when we've got good, healthy levels of GLP-1, what happens is that we can stop when we've just had enough and we don't overconsume. Now, the thing is that, so it's actually very clever in terms of the way that it's designed and the impact that it does have on our bodies, which is exactly the same that GLP-1 does have on us, which is a really healthy way to regulate many different aspects of our food intake, our appetite, our hunger, satiety levels, all of that. And what's really interesting, I find, is that we're very excited with the change, and it is so helpful to many people that are struggling with diabetes and not able to shift weight. It's definitely hugely helpful for people that have struggled in their lives. However, the question that I'm seeing that isn't being asked is what's happening in today's day and age with our food, with the way that we're moving or not moving. What's actually causing this hormone not to be functioning adequately to keep us healthy and well? And I think that's not a question that I can unpack today. Unfortunately, that's a whole other show. But I think the most important thing for me is that I'm always asking is what's been the change that our bodies aren't utilizing or producing this hormone, or this hormone isn't being stimulated in our bodies naturally to keep us eating the right quantity of foods to allow our blood sugar levels to be stable. And I think that's a really relevant and important question that should go alongside of being excited with the fact that this discovery has been made that can help people through this new Ozempic GLP-1 drug. And I think the biggest answer to that is the way that food is being designed. And food is being designed to completely curb our hormones and mess with our hormones so that we are consuming more. And I think that's why I'm putting together this segment today, because I think it's really powerful information to understand that we don't just need the medication. We need to be bringing those foods back in that have the natural effect of what the Ozempic type of drugs actually create in our bodies. So we're going to have a look at, well, what are some of the foods that allow us to have the similar response with the GLP-1? So this way we're not thinking about drugs or injections, but we're thinking about real foods and starting to take back our power of our bodies to be making good choices and for our body to be functioning in a way that will allow us to be a lot healthier, rather than sticking with habits that are causing the issue and then overriding those issues through medication. So let's have a look at, well, what are some of the foods that have the similar properties to Ozempic? Now, the first one, and we'll call this one the MVP, the most valuable player, is fibre. Something I think that we are starting to talk more about, but probably not enough about, especially because protein has taken such centre stage. So fibre particularly soluble fibre, can slow down digestion and make you feel fuller for longer. So that's the role that fibre does have in our bodies. So if we're thinking about that in terms of our appetite and our satiety, it just means that your food is taking longer to digest, which that means keeping you fuller for a longer period of time. And the thing is with some of the heavily processed foods, they're designed to get through our system quite quickly so that then we are hungry again and we are wanting more. And to be honest, when I think of it in that way and I think about what some of those fast foods are actually doing to our systems and to our bodies, it gets me so cross and so angry. And that is one of the biggest drivers for me, other than a lot of other drivers, but that's a primary driver for me to avoid those foods completely, because I want to be in control of my body. I want to feel in control that my bodily systems and all the different systems in my body are working to keep me well and functioning under their own control, not under the control of the food that is changing the way that my body works. So when we're talking about fibre, thinking about things like oats, things like chia seeds, flax seeds, lentils, apples, also high in fibre, and psyllium husks. So that is some simple, soluble fibre forms that we can include into our day-to-day diet. And these aren't hugely complex foods. They can be added into things. So lentils you could make yourself a lentil soup or lentil burgers or a lentil curry. But if you don't particularly enjoy lentils on their own, then add it into your meat. So into mince meat, for example, when you're making a bolognese, and reduce the quantity of the mince while adding some of the lentils in. That sort of thing you can definitely do. Adding it to burgers, if you are making your homemade burgers, anything pretty much with the mince, you can substitute some of that out. And it works really, really well. Oats, easy for breakfast, add them to your smoothies. Chia seeds is something I add to my smoothie every day. I have a serving of chia seeds every day. Flax seeds is another thing that you can sprinkle onto your yogurt, onto your muesli. You can have flax seeds in baked goods. There's lots of different ways to be able to enjoy these foods that are quite high in fibre. So the soluble fibre from these foods forms a bit of a gel in your stomach, and it slows down how fast your stomach empties, which keeps you feeling full and even helps to regulate blood sugar levels. So basically it's your body's natural version of appetite control. So if you're the type that you get hungry after 30 minutes after eating, try adding some fibre into your meals and see what the difference is. So the first one is fibre. Then, of course, we cannot go past protein. Protein is the second food, which is a satiety superstar. This one's not new. We know about it, but it's so underused by a lot of people, especially that I work with. So protein doesn't just build muscle. It also blunts our hunger hormones and it keeps our blood sugar levels stable. And the most important thing to note, especially as we get older, is we need to have frequent protein intake throughout our day. So having some cornflakes and then a salad sandwich for lunch, cornflakes for breakfast, salad sandwich for lunch, and leaving your main protein for dinner is quite a traditional style of eating, but that really does need to change. And so think about how you can add protein into your day. So if we're talking about a salad sandwich, think about putting some eggs in there or some tuna in there or some grilled chicken. And with your breakfast, whether you want to add some nuts and seeds or some protein powder or some yogurt or maybe just eggs on toast, that would work as well. So aim to get some protein with every meal and each of your snacks as well. So that is your second food that needs to be included in, and that's something that I'm very mindful of. So for breakfast, my traditional day for food would look like, for me this morning, I'll share I had a smoothie. It did have the chia seeds in there. It did have the protein powder in there. And then for morning snack, I had Greek yogurt with pumpkin seeds and some carrot sticks. And then for lunch, I was on the way here, so I've had sort of a bit of an early lunch on Wednesdays, but I just had a salad with some turkey burgers that I made. So just a turkey burger, it was quite a big one, a turkey burger just over the top with some salad. So I've had protein at each of those times. So the next one, and this is sometimes one that we don't tend to think about when we're thinking about feeling satisfied with food, but that's fermented foods. And the reason why is it supports your gut hormones. Now, it's one that we don't usually connect to appetite, but there's this amazing link between your gut microbiome and your appetite regulating hormones like the GLP-1 and PYY. So when your gut bacteria are in balance, your body gets better at managing the hunger and the satiety. And so that has a lot to do also with the balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria, and the fact that bad bacteria generally feeds on sugar and then multiplies and then sends out a continual hunger signal for more sugar. So balancing your gut bacteria by adding in fermented foods is going to balance that response out. And so some of the things that we want to include in that are considered fermented foods, so that are full of good probiotics or good healthy gut bacteria, are things such as plain Greek-style yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir or miso. They're all good ways to add in throughout the day. And the thing is, you don't need to go overboard with these fermented foods. You just need to add a little bit daily and your gut will feel so much better, but you will also find that your hunger and satiety levels will change. So when we're talking about either adding some sauerkraut or some kimchi, 1 tablespoon of sauerkraut and a couple of tablespoons of yogurt per day are a really good start. And that's something that you can introduce quite simply into your diet. Now, if you also wanted to add a probiotic tablet, just in case on the days that you don't get the kimchi or sauerkraut in, then that's going to work really, really well as well. So number 4 is vinegar. So have you heard, I'm not sure if you've done or you've heard of the vinegar before the meals trick. It is a thing. It actually does work. But a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar in water before eating a high carbohydrate meal has been shown to lower the blood sugar spike as a result of that meal and help you feel more satisfied, not only while you're eating the meal, but also at the end of the meal and moving into your next time when you get hungry. And it's not a magic trick in terms of it's not going to undo overeating on a bowl of pasta, or hot chips or something like that. But adding vinegar into your meals, like in dressings or marinades, or just having a little bit in water before your dinner, can actually help. It helps to regulate your gut microbiome as well. And I start my day, I don't necessarily have it throughout the day, although that's not true, because I have a tablespoon or so of apple cider vinegar with hot water as the very first thing that I start my day with. And then in my salad for lunch and for dinner, I must say I'm always using apple cider vinegar. Sometimes I will use balsamic, but at least one of those 2 salads am adding in some apple cider vinegar. So give that one a go. Now, the thing with this, though, is not to try this if you do get reflux or any gut issues, but otherwise it's a simple trick that really is worth trying. And especially having that first thing in the morning, you will find it can actually change how bloated you feel in the day. And then the next one is whole unprocessed meals. And this is really the secret weapon to a lot of better health in many different aspects, and especially in gut health. Now, this is just the basics, remembering the basics. Now, Ozempic works in part because it slows the gastric emptying. And what does exactly that same thing is eating a balanced meal. So eating a balanced meal with fibre, with protein, with healthy fats, and minimally ultra-processed junk foods. So highly processed foods are digested too quickly. They do spike our blood sugar levels, and they can leave you feeling hungry again relatively soon. So then you're on that wagon again and over-consuming. Whole foods, on the other hand, they slow you down. They make you chew. They give your body time to register your fullness. And you will find that because of the nutrients that are in whole foods, because they're not nutrient void because of the processing being heavily processed. So you will find that they not only take you longer to consume them, but they have so many more nutrients that leave you feeling satisfied. So to sum up, no food is going to work exactly like the drug, and if that's something that you are being looked after by your doctor, it's not something that you would take yourself off and completely turn to these food things, but you can absolutely train your body to work with you, not against you, when it does come to regulating our appetite and our blood sugar levels, and starting to think again about why is it that my body's not functioning well in this way, rather than accepting or just looking for the fix. And it is a process, but even adding some fibre in, prioritising protein, include some fermented foods, trying to add apple cider vinegar to your salads, and removing as much processed food as you can. These aren't just sort of healthy diet tips, but they are metabolic supporting tools that are going to train your hormones to regulate your appetite the way it's really actually designed to do. And the best part is that these foods also support better energy, digestion, and long-term health. Thanks for joining me on this segment from Wellbeing Wednesdays, as heard live on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might find it helpful, and subscribe so you never miss a show. Want to catch the live broadcast? Well, you can tune in Wednesdays from 12 till 2 p.m. on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM, or find my info on Wellbeing Wednesdays with Snez, the Facebook group. Take care, stay healthy, and remember, it's the little choices every day that create big changes. Talk soon.